Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com, and we're here today with episode number 21 in our incredible new tutorial series where you're knowing where you're going with your Ultimate GPS Tracker project. What I will need you to do is pour yourself a nice tall glass of ice cold coffee. That would be straight up black coffee, poured over ice, no sugar, no sweeteners, none needed. And as you're pouring your coffee, let me go ahead and just describe to you what I'm going to show you how to do today. Now, where did we end up with last week? We ended up with, let me get out of your way and take a look here. We ended up with a GPS tracker project that has a portable power supply, an SSD 1306 display, an Adafruit Ultimate GPS, and then we have a Raspberry Pi Pico W, and then we have a button. And what this button does is two functions. When we boot the thing up and it's going to run main.py, we can use it as a kill switch. No, I don't want you to run that program. Or once the program is running, we can mash the button to start logging data and mash the button to stop logging data. And then last week, we were all supposed to go out and go on a little bit of a road trip or a walk around the neighborhood and generate a good log file for us to do this week. Now, what are we going to do with that log file this week? When we transfer the log file over from the Raspberry Pi Pico W over to our desktop PC, that Python program that does that, we're going to make that Python program convert the log file into a KML file. And that KML file we will be able to display on Google Earth. So we can take where we went, that log file, and we can just click on it when it's a KML file, and then it'll pop up in Google Earth and it'll show us our path that we went on in our most excellent trip. So does that sound good? I hope it does. So what I want to do is last week I gave you a sample of a KML file, and I kind of told you it's a little bit like HTML. It's like, don't look at it too closely. I don't try to exactly understand it. I just see in all of this KML nonsense where my data points go, and then that's what I'm going to try to do when I bring the file over, is just have all the nonsense and then just put my data points in the right place. So let's go ahead and get a sample KML file, and then we'll start building our program around that. So let's go to TopTechBoy.com, and then what I need you to do is use this happy little search icon and search on something like create a KML file to display your GPS data. Okay, and then you'll come down here, and here is a sample KML file that'll sort of be a template for us to write our program. So let's go ahead and get that. Let's see, let's go ahead and get that. I'll click here to copy, and then we're going to come over to Thonny, and I'm going to put that in Thonny. This is not a program. This is kind of like a data file. You could think of it like that, but it's easier to read here in Thonny. So this is going to be my KML file that'll help me develop my program, and then I'll go ahead and make a new place here for me to write the program. Now remember, we are writing the program in Python to be run on the desktop PC, and then this program will send commands over to the Raspberry Pi Pico W asking for the data in the log file on the Raspberry Pi Pico W, and then as it is brought into the PC, this Python program on the PC will start generating that KML file. So let's look at the KML file, and I think the easiest thing to start with is just at the top and the bottom. So when you have these open close brackets, that is opening something, and then when you come down here and you have the open close with a slash, that's closing that thing. And so if you look at these files, they're a little bit like an onion. Open something, close something, open something different, close something different. And so it's kind of nested. It's not like this, it's nested. All right. And so just to take a quick look at this, let's get a little familiar with it before we jump in and start trying to write our program. So this is just something that is in a header. And then what's the first thing that we open? We open a KML object. And what's the last thing we do? We close that KML object. What's the next thing we do? We open our document. What's the second to the last thing we do? We close that document. So you can sort of see this nested opening and closing. What happens up here at the top? Well, it looks like we give it a name. It looks like that we assign some sort of style, like an ID as point style, because we know that our track on Google Earth is going to have points like breadcrumbs, and then it's going to have a line connecting those points. So it looks like we're talking about the points here. Then how do we want the little dot that we're going to display? What type of style is that? Well, we open the style, we assign a style, and then we close the icon style. Then we close the overall style. And now we're also going to have a line. So we're going to want to define what that line is going to look like. So we set a style of the line style, and then we give it values. Okay, so it looks like that we have assigned some sort of color here. I believe that that's red. And then we've assigned a width of, it looks like a width of 3 to the line. So a few parameters you can set in there. Now we close the style. And now we are going to open a place mark. And on that place mark, what we say is we want its style URL. You don't have to understand all this. It's just setting up the style of our display. And then we say, what are we going to display? Multi-geometry. Why multi-geometry? Because I'm going to be putting multiple points. I'm going to have a whole bunch of points I put on. And so I set this as multi-geometry. All right. Now, this is where the action happens. I open a point and I open its coordinates. Then I give the point from my log file that I recorded. Okay, and how do I give the point? I give it as longitude, comma, latitude. So our log file and how we normally think has always been lat, comma, lon, but when I put the point into the KML file, it has to be the longitude, comma, the latitude. Now, I'm going to close the coordinates that I opened, and I'm going to close that point. So at this point, if I had this as the KML file with all the footer stuff down below it, what would I get? I would get 1 point, 1 dot on the map. Well, what do I do now? I open the next point, and I am going to have the coordinates, and then again the next point in the log file, longitude, comma, latitude. Then close the coordinates and close the points. So to make it simple, I just put 2 data points in this KML file so you can just kind of see where things go. So I've got point 1, I've got point 2. Now remember, I opened multi-geometry, so I have to close multi-geometry. I opened place marks, I have to close place marks, all right? So now what do I have? I have the stuff done to put all the dots from my log file. Now, I have 2, but there'll be many more points when we actually get our real log file. Now, look at this. We're going to open up another place mark. Now, what is this place mark going to be? This is going to be, we're going to call it our path. And then again, this one is going to be, we're going to do a style URL. We're going to define that. We set up some parameters here we don't really need to understand. This one I will explain. We open altitude mode and we say clamp to ground, and then we close altitude mode. And the reason we do that is we don't want to be showing going up and down in altitude. We just want to stick to the surface of the map. And if you don't do that, if you have a little bit of an error in your elevation or a little bit of error in what you're displaying, your track can disappear because it goes underground. And so the safest thing to do is just say clamp to the ground, and then your contour will just follow the surface of the earth. Now, of course, if you're doing an airplane, you can't clamp to ground because you would want to see your elevation or altitude. In that case, in your log file that you record, it would want to be lat, lon, elevation. Okay, but we're on the ground, so we didn't save elevation, but we still need to tell this to clamp to the ground. And so now we are going to give it coordinates, and this is going to be the points that we draw a line between. Now, earlier we had to like define the point, close the point, define the point, close the point, but now we're just going to draw a line through all of these points. So this is going to be a lot easier because it's just going to be longitude, comma, latitude, and then it's going to be longitude, comma, latitude, and then if we have 250 points, it'll be 250 different individual lines. Then we're going to close the coordinate, we're going to close the line string, we're going to close the place mark, and now we actually wrap up by closing the document and closing KML. Okay, you don't have to understand that. You just got to take what we have here and you have to put all your points in here. And then up here, you have to put those same points, but you have to put them one at a time. Point, coordinate, then your data, in coordinate, in point. And so this will be the thing that we're repeating over and over. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Okay, now don't be too afraid of this. Why do you not need to be so afraid of this? Because all of this from here down to here, I can make all that just a string, and then the first of my KML file, I'm just going to write this string to the KML file. So all of this is just going to go in like it is. Now, if you want to get fancy and play around with color or width or stuff like that, you can. But as far as the program goes, this is going to be a string, and this is going to be the first thing to go into my KML file. Now I need to have a little bit of a loop, and that loop is going to write this string, then it's going to write one of the data points, and then it's going to write this string. Then what will it do? It will write this string, and then it will write this, and it will write this. And it's going to do that until I am out of data points. Now, once I'm past my last data point, now I'm going to have another, and then I'll close it there, right? And then I'm going to have another very long string. And that string is going to start here, and it's going to come all the way down to here. Now I'm going to write that string into the KML file. All right. Now what do? I need to go through the data again, but this time instead of doing a point, coordinate, and then the data in coordinate, in point, no, I'm just going to write all of these, and this data will be used for the line. Okay, now once I've done that, what do? I put this at the bottom of the KML file. Okay, so I've got one big string here. I've got one big string here. And then I've got one really big string here. And that's going to be most of my KML file. And then just from my log file, I will be filling in my particular data points, okay? So let's come over here and let's see if we can get started. And so what I'm going to do is, this is going to be very similar to the program that we use to transfer the data from the Raspberry Pi Pico W over to the PC. It's going to be very similar to that, but we've got to kind of create a file that has that other junk in it. Okay, so I'm going to need to import serial. I'm going to need to import time. And then for me, my serial port is equal to, it's equal to COM7, like that, okay? And then my baud rate is going to be equal to 115,200. Just a reminder, on the Pico W, it is kind of hardwired to talk at and listen at 115,200. If you set something different here, you're going to be talking to yourself because the Raspberry Pi Pico W will not be listening to you. Now I'm going to create my serial object. Serial is going to be equal to serial, and then who am I talking to? The serial port, like that. And then what rate am I talking at? I'm talking at baud rate, okay? And then I'm going to have a timeout is going to be equal to, let's give it a 1/10 of a second, something like that, okay? And then we'll give it a second just to settle down. So I'll say a time.sleep. Like that. I'm going to go ahead and run this just to make sure that I can talk to the serial port. And just to make sure, remember, I've got to make sure that main.py is not running and that I got to make sure that main.py is not running. And I've got to make sure that I haven't tied up the serial port. And so let's see if I can make this Thonny a little bit bigger here. Okay, so over here, I want to make sure that I am connected to Python 3, right? Because I don't want to lock up my serial port. Now I'm going to come over here, unplug, plug it in. What's it doing? Running main.py, hit the button, and it's terminating. Okay, now I should be able to connect to that serial port. So I just want to run this, and I just want to see that I'm not getting an error. Oh, time.sleep, what is that? Time.sleep 1. All right, sorry about that. Okay, here we go. All right, looked like it was happy. So that's kind of encouraging. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to tell the Raspberry Pi Pico W to open up its log file. So I'm going to do serial my object dot write. And then what do I want to write? I want to write these bytes exactly what I want to tell it to open that file. So F is equal to open. What do I want to open? The log.txt. And then what do I want to do? I want to open it as a read, like that. Okay, and then I will close that. So I want to open it. And now what do I have to do? I have to press enter. How do I press enter remotely? By sending the \R\n. And remember, backslash is the slash that's above the enter key on most keyboards. So make sure you get that going the right direction because it does matter. I will close that exact string that I want to write, and then I'll close my parenthesis. Okay, does that look good? I think that looks pretty good. Okay, now what I'm going to do is that command is going to echo the Raspberry Pi Pico W. When it gets that command, it's going to echo that command back to me. So I got to read it out of the serial port, or it's going to be sitting there messing things up and being in the way. So I'm going to read it just to get it out of there. And how do I do that? I'm going to say line is equal to serial dot read line, like that. Then I might as well, while I'm at it, decode it. And how do I decode it? As a UTF-8. Okay, and then I want to strip all the nonsense off. That should take the blank spaces off. It should take the carriage returns, the new lines, all that nonsense. It just kind of gives you the clean string that you want if things are working correctly. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say print, and I'm going to say the initial line. And why am I doing this? I just want to see if I was able to send a command to the Pico, if it heard it and it says, gotcha, buddy, you sent me this, I'm going to send it back at you. Okay. And so what will we want here? We will want to concatenate that with line that we just read. Now, what we hope to see here is we hope to see this command echoed back to us. And so let's see what happens. UTF, what is that I did? This is decode, and then needs to be a string. Sorry. There you go. Okay. Boom. What is the initial line? the Raspberry Pi Pico W got the command, and to show me that it got the command, it echoed that command back to me. So really 90% of the battle is done when you're able to send a command to the Pico W. So that is really, really good. Okay, let's go ahead and just give it a second there. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to do another time.sleep. And learning from my earlier mistake, I will give it a parameter, this time just 1/10 of a second, just to kind of help it get going. Okay, now what do I want to do? I want to get that huge string that is the top part of that KML file. So I'm going to say KML header, and that's going to be equal to, and I'm going to come back over here to my KML, and I'm going to get everything from here all the way down to here. Now, why do I stop here? Because this, and this will be sort of in a unit, iterating. It'll be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, those 3 lines. And so the top part that I just will do one time will be this. Now we're going to come back over here. Now, I don't want a line that is 3 miles long. So I want to put this in as a string that I give it in multiple lines. And so how can I tell Python that it's fixing to get a multiple line string? Well, instead of 1 quote, I give it 3 quotes, and that just cues it in that what it is fixing to get is going to be a string that is going to be over more than 1 line. And so now I'll go Control B. Okay, now that's all good, but if I open that string with 3 quotes, what do I need to do here? What do I need to do here? Can anybody guess? Can anybody guess what I need to do? I need to close it with 3 strings. Okay, like that. Now I'm going to run it just to make sure that I got that string in there. I think I might even say print KML header. It's just easier to try to see if things are going well as we go. Going well. Okay, look at that. Yeah, you see, I got that header all in there. So this was the echo, and then I got that huge string that is going to be the header for my KML file. So that's kind of useful. Now I'm not going to print that out every time now that I see it works. But what else am I going to need? I'm going to need a string that is the point start string that I'm going to do every time, and then the point end string that I'm going to do. So for every data point that I put in, I've got to have that precursor and then that after ending thing. So what do I start with on every single point? This is what goes on before every single point. And so what do? I make that, but I got to make it a string, and it's on 1 line, so I can just do 1 quote. And so before every point, I want to write this to the KML file, and then after every point, I want to do this to close it, right? And this time I'll put the quote, the Control V, and the quote. So I have my string that'll go before the data point and my string that will go after the data point. Man, this is pretty good stuff. Now what I need to do is I need to get my line string start. Okay, and let's see. Yeah, I need to get that part that's between the 2 data points. And so let's come over here. So at this point, I have all of my data and I've closed it, right? Now, what do I want? I want to get this part. Okay, I want to get this part all the way down to the data. Okay, so all of this, I want to be the next part. So I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to come over here, and then what am I going to call that? This is, remember, where we're going to do the line, right? The line string start. So this is the part that's going to define the line. All right. And now this is a long one, so I'm going to do the triple quote, and then I'm going to paste, and then I'm going to end it with a triple quote. Okay, so that's that kind of middle part. And then what do I finally have? I have this end part. Okay, so here's the data, and now I've got to have this string. Okay, so now what I'm going to have is I'm going to have line string ends, and that's going to be equal to, again, triple quote, paste, and then triple quote. All right, so you see, why am I doing this? Now I don't have to think about all that. I don't have to think about all that different stuff. I can write the header. Okay, I can write the header, and then as I put each data point in, I will start it with this, put the data point in, and then end it with this. And then after all the data's in, then I got to put this long string in, and then I'll put all my data, and then I will bring the whole thing home by putting this at the bottom of the KML file. All right. I hope this is not confusing. I hope this makes sense. All right, so now I'm going to run that just to make sure I don't have any errors. Okay, it looks happy. All right, so now, so what we want to do here is I think we just want to run it. We want to run it and see if the thing, you know, sets those strings up without crashing. All right, so it's really, I think we just want to see if it does it without crashing. So let's go ahead and run. Okay, so it looks like it liked all of those things that we set up, and so that is good. Now, we can start at this point trying to build our KML file. What's the first thing that we want? The first thing that we're going to want is that header, because it's going to be the same every time. So I'm going to say with open. And what am I going to open? The path.kml. This will be the file that's going to be my KML file. And I'll be good, and I'll put my quotes around that like that. Okay, let me get that out of your way before it starts covering up what I'm typing. Okay, so then we're going to open it as a write, because if there is a file there, we want it to go ahead and erase it. And then we're going to open that as lon lat. Okay, we're going to open it as lon lat, and now you're going to open that as KML. Silly me. KML. Now what are we going to do? A KML.write. What are we going to write? The KML header that we just defined up there. Okay, and now when we come here, then I should have my KML file. So let's go ahead and run this. Okay, didn't complain about anything, so let me view the files. Now, very important, when we look, you see it's there, the path.kml, it was created. When we look at this, don't double click on it because it'll try to open it in Google Earth. You want to right mouse click and say open in Thonny. Okay, and here we have this, and this all looks very good. That all looks very good. And then we go all the way down to multi-geometry. So I think that is exactly where we want to be. And then that looked good. And so now let's come back over here. The one thing I think I saw is, yeah, that looks, make sure that you don't have a space there, right? Make sure that you don't have a space there, that it doesn't like it if the first character is a space. So we open the three quotes and then boom, we go right into the file. So that's good. Now, if you remember over here on our, do I have that? Yeah, this is the KML file. Over on our KML file, if you remember that we are like putting the header, the data, and the footer. The header, the data, the footer. We're getting ready to do that. But we're also going to need to just have all the data together. So I'm going to create a file that as I'm generating the coordinates, the point coordinates, as I'm generating those, I'm going to go ahead and save those numbers in a file so that I can use them down here, because you see every number you use it once here and then you use it once up here. So I'll just go through it one time and I will generate that as I go through. So bottom line with that is, what does that mean? I'm going to create with open, I'm going to create my what? My lon-lat.txt file, and I am going to open that as a write just so it erases it if it is there, and I'll open that as lon lat like that, and that looks like something's not happy. I need to close that. All right, so that is open, and now what do I want to do? Just pass, because just by opening it and dropping out, what's going to happen by opening and dropping out, I am going to erase the lon lat file or the lon-lat.txt file if it is there. Now we have the header written to the KML file. We have the lon-lat.txt file ready for data. So we're ready to move forward. So what I'm going to say is, with open, what am I going to open? I'm going to open the path.kml. I'm going to open my KML file again. It has some good juicy stuff in there already, but now I'm going to get ready to put the data in. Okay, I'm going to get ready to put the data in, and so I'm going to want to do this as an append because I don't want to lose that header, and I'll open it as KML again, like that. Okay, I'm going to also open, because I'm going to want to write to this file, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open lat dash, or this is lon, right? It's got to be longitude first, lon.lat.txt, and I'll open that as an append as well. All right, and I'll open that as lon lat again, just like before. And I need to close that. All right, so I've got 3 files open right now. I have my path KML file on the PC open. I've got my lon lat file on the PC open. And remember up here, don't forget what we did way up here. We opened the log file over on the Pico W. So we got 3 files open and we are ready for action. Now, I got to create a while loop to step through. I got to create a while loop to step through the log file over on the Pico W. So what do I need to do? I need to say while line is not equal to, what do I want it not equal to? That, right? I don't want it equal to that. That is the string, apostrophe, apostrophe, or open single quote, close single quote. That string, to tell it that it is that string exactly, I need to put that in double quotes. Okay, I need to put that in double quotes. All right, so while I have not reached the end of the file, which will have a blank line, what do I want to do? While the line is not equal to that, I want to read. So I'm going to say the line is equal to serial. But before I do that, I'm sorry, I've got to now send a command. I have to send a command to the Pico W to send me the first line out of its log file. So how do I do that? I do a serial.write. Okay, I want to write these bytes exactly. F, the file that I opened up here on the Pico W, that F, what am I going to do? I'm going to say F, that file that's open, read line, and then I've got to send it to enter, which is /r/n, and then close that. Okay, so now I've told it read the line. What is it going to do? It's going to echo the command back to me, so I better read that echo so it doesn't build up in the serial monitor. So I'll do that with a read line, and then I'll go ahead and decode it, and that I will decode with a UTF-8, and then I'll go ahead and do a dot strip all the nonsense off. All right, now that will read the echo, but besides the echo, it's also going to send me what? It's going to send me the data line. So this read will read the echo of this command, and this read will actually read the data that the Pico sent me. And so now what I should be able to do with a little luck, I should print, and I'll say line, and then what am I going to print? That line that I just read, and this should be the data if this is working right. So I think that I can just do this, and I should see a bunch of data come up if it's looking good. Look at that. Okay, now do you see? It reads all the way until it gets here, right? And then once it reads this, then the line is equal to that, and it'll drop out of the while loop, okay? So that is very, very good. That is very, very good. Now, do I want to log everything, right? Do I want to log this? No, I don't. Do I want to log this? No, I don't. So I've got to only log the real data. Well, how do I log the real data? If that line I just read, if it starts with a what? A single quote, the string single quote, right? I want to read this. 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 Okay, I guess I should say log that, log that, log that. But I don't want to log this, but I won't. Why? Because this does not start with a single quote. So my problem is halfway done now. Now also, do I want to log this? No, I don't. So I only log if it starts with a single quote and the line is not equal to the what? The double, like that. So this I don't want to log, right? So line cannot be equal to that. But if those two conditions are met, then what do I want to do? I want to log the data. But when I log, what is my problem? I don't want this, and I don't want this, this, and this. So I want to skip the character in the 0 position, and I want to skip the last 3 characters. Well, how can I do that? I can say the line is equal to the line spliced. I don't want the 0th element. I want the element in position 1, and then I want to stop 3 from the end, right? I do not want that, not that, not that. I don't want those last 3 characters, so I trim those off there. Now I'm going to say my data is, so now what do I have? I have a string that is this string. Now I want to split it at the comma. I want to split it at the comma. So I'll say my data is equal to line dot split, and what do I split at? I split at the comma. And now I'll have an array with 2 values, this value and that value. Okay, so that should be pretty good. Now what do we want to do? Now I want to create the data to put in the KML file. But now this line is going to be equal to, do I want lat.lon? No, I want lon.lat. So the line is going to be my data, and it's going to be element 1 concatenated with a comma, and then concatenated with what? My data 0. So here is where I switch lat lon to become lon lat. All right. Does that make sense? Right. Hope that does. Okay. So that should swap things. And now what I want to do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to say print, just to make sure this is working like we think, new line. And now that should be the old line with the things reversed line like that. Okay. So I should get like lat comma lon, and then I should get lon comma lat, I think, if I'm thinking about this right. So let's run it. Okay, so what do I see? I see this, which is lat comma lon with the nonsense. And then here I see everything cleaned up, which is lon comma lat without the nonsense. So I changed the position. So that is exactly what we wanted to do. So we printed the new line. Now what I want to do is I want to write that data point to the KML file. So I'm going to say KML.write, but do I want to put that data point in? No, I've got to put the point start string, right? Remember my point start string up here. I want to put this in first. So I want to do my point start, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and put a new line in. So I will do this / new line. Okay, kind of keep it neat here, like that. Okay, and then what do I want? I want to concatenate that with the actual data. All right, and now what do I want to concatenate that with? I want to concatenate that. I want to concatenate that. It looks like something's not happy here. Somewhere I have a let's see, somewhere you see this thing is not happy, so I haven't put the quote that I should put. You see somewhere up there I have unbalanced something. Okay, we'll have to run it and see where the error shows up, but then I'm going to do the line, and then I am going, so that's going to be the actual data right there. The line is going to be the actual data. Then I'm going to concatenate that with a / new line. And these new lines just make the KML file a little bit neater. And then I'm going to concatenate that with point end like that. Actually, that kind of balanced out. Then maybe that is right. But let's go ahead and let's do this, and then let's see if we have that data in the KML file. Okay, so let's run this. That's looking good. Okay, no complaints. And so now let's view our files. Remember, you've got a right mouse click, open in Thonny, and there it is. And let's see, we've got all the nonsense. Now what I say is, here is your point. This is your point. And then you end the coordinate in the point, and then you start the new point in the new coordinate. And so I think what I want to do is over here, maybe I want to clean that up a little bit more. And so I think maybe what I want to do is I want to put another end line here plus new line. Do you guys understand why I'm doing this? I'm trying to get the KML file to be readable. So let's try this again. Right mouse click on path, open in Thonny. And yeah, now I've got start the point. This is the point, in the point. Okay, so that's nice and readable. I really, really like that. So let's come back over here. So now you see we're actually building up that KML file very nicely now. But what else do we want to do here while we have that lon comma lat line? what do we want to do with that line? We want to lon lat dot write. Besides putting it in the KML file, we want to create this file that we will add to the KML file in a minute. And what do I want? I want that line. And then I want a plus. And then what do you need? Google Earth looks for a blank space. It wants lon, comma, lat, space, lon, comma, lat, space, lon, comma, lat, space. So here I have lon, comma, lat, but what do I need to put? The space. So that's open quote, space, close quote. Don't forget to put the space. And now let's go to the new line. Man, you guys, make sure that you're putting your backslashes in the right direction. That is the key over the enter key. So now this should create a lon lat file. I do believe this will create the lon lat file. All right, let's run it. Let's refresh. Let's look for lon lat, and boom, there it is. Okay, longitude, comma, latitude, and then if you look here, you see there's a blank space after. There's a blank space after, like that. Okay. And then you come down here and then it ends with the empty. Okay, so that is really, really good. We are almost done here. I think we are almost done. So now what do I want to do? I need to, with open, I need to go get the whole file now, that whole lat-lon file. So I'm going to open lon lat.txt, and I'm going to open it this time as a read, because now I'm just going to read the whole thing in all at once. I'm going to read the whole thing in all at once, and I'm going to say, what was that? I've got to come over here like that. All right, now what am I going to do? I'm going to say my coordinates are equal to the lon lat.read, and I better come up here and say as lon lat. I'm going to close this so you guys can see a little better. Okay, lon lat. Now I do a lon lat.read. Now I have everything. I should be able here just to say print the coordinates, and it should show me that whole file. And then now I'm going to say with open, what do I want to open? My path.kml. All right, and then I want to append this time as KML, and now I'm going to put all of those coordinates into this file, right? I'm going to put all of those coordinates into this file. So what will I do? A KML.write. And then what am I going to write? I'm going to write that line string start, which is the part above the coordinates that I defined above. All right. And then I'm going to concatenate that with a new line. Go to the next line. And then I am going to concatenate that with coordinates and then I need to finish with the line string end, like that, line string end, and make sure we did that right. This should be line string start, line string end singular. Okay, and then we have line string start, new line, the coordinates, line string end, and then we close that. Yeah, And then that's it, right? Because the line string end, yeah, the line string end closes out the whole document, right? Line string end closes out the whole document. So the KML file should be done at this point. The KML file should be done. So what little cleanup do we need to still do on the program? We need to do a serial dot right over to the Raspberry Pi Pico W, the bytes, and it needs to be F, our file object dot close over on the Pico W side. And then we need to send it the carriage return in the new line and close that. So that should close things out. And then I should do a serial.close like that. And then I should just print KML file saved like that. And I think I could say saved as. And then I'll concatenate that with the name of the file path.kml. Okay, now let's run this thing. Okay, that looks pretty good. That does look pretty good. All right, so now we want to view the files, and then I'm going to take a look at that path.kml. I'm going to say open in Thonny, and then here's path.kml, and I'm going to sort of look down here at the last part. So I close the KML, I close the document, I close the place mark, I close the string, and I close the coordinates. And then up here at the top of all those lon, comma, lat data points, well, that's a lot of scrolling we got to do. I open the coordinates. And then after the 5, after the data, you see I've got that space that Google Earth wants to see. It wants to see that space. That's why we put that space in that string. Okay, now this should be the moment of truth. And so if you double click on this, it probably should open up in Google Earth. But if it doesn't know what to open up in, tell it to open up in Google Earth, or maybe you could go into Google Earth and open as if you have a problem. But I'm just going to double click on this now. It's coming to Google Earth. Okay, we are opening up in the ocean. We are coming to Africa, Lake Victoria, and boom, look at that. Look at that, okay? What do I have? I have both dots of exactly where every point that I logged was, and then I've got a line connecting all of the dots. And if we come here, let's zoom in here. You guys remember I started at my house under the little grass carport here. And then also right when I turned it on, remember I only had 5 satellites. And so you can see that as I'm driving off, I promise you I was not driving through the grass. I was driving on the road. Looks like I'm 2 or 3 meters off. Then we came to my gate. I came out on this unimproved road. I've still got a couple of meters error. And then we turned up here. And then we came down, and remember we found the borehole, and the mosque was right here, and the borehole was right here, and the kids were pumping their water. And then we come out on the main road into town, and you can see now I'm on the road maybe a meter off, okay? And so we followed that on down, and remember on the video we went by the airport. Here's the airport. You can kind of see that it's just a dirt. It's like a dirt landing strip. You can also see that at this point, I picked up more satellites, and I'm exactly right, precisely on the road, just dead on. Okay. Remember we drove by the market that was Amber Court, and all you guys saw was this one row here of the little shops, the little shanty shops that were by the road, but you can see it goes very far back in there. It looks like there's probably 7, it's probably like 6 or 7 square blocks that you can go back in there and buy your food and buy your various things. Then we came to the roundabout. We went through the roundabout, and then we came here on this road that came to the source of the Nile Bridge. We went over the source of the Nile Bridge. We went through the roundabout, came back over the source of the Nile Bridge, and I showed you this was the dam here, okay? And then this was the old bridge, and then this is the actual hydroelectric dam. So this directs the water over to here, and then this is the hydroelectric dam where this part of the country gets its electricity from. Then we came back to the roundabout, and then we headed into town. And then you remember the camera lady's hand was getting tired of holding it up, and so then we just shut the project down. Okay, guys, this is really looking great. This is looking great. And you guys, your homework for next week is just go in and get caught up where I am, where you can log data, you can come back to your desktop, you can transfer your log file over to, your PC, and as you're doing that, you can generate a KML file, and then you can show that your file is now showing in Google Earth. Okay, now make a video and show that you got everything working. And then next week we'll start playing around with a few new and different ideas, but at least this week get caught up to where I am. Okay, guys, I hope you're having as much fun with this project as I am. It's at this point I always give a big shout out to you guys who are standing with me on Patreon. Without the financial support of my Patreons, I would not be able to continue to produce fresh, new, in-depth content every single week. Big thank you to you guys. You can help this video by leaving a comment down below and giving the video a thumbs up. That will help me with the old YouTube juice. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. When you do, make sure you ring that bell so you get notification when future lessons drop. And most importantly, share the video with other people, because the world needs more people knowing where they're going and fewer people sitting around watching silly cat videos. Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.